Hi, my name's Thornley. I'm an artist blacksmith and just showing you guys sort of the process behind one of the pieces. It's a Bullrush Sculpture, and you know, just try to make it organic and lifelike, and just for general interest, keen to show you guys, or for potential clients, just showing what's involved to make something like this. So just keen to go through the steps and show you a bit more about it. So to start with, you just need to cut out various materials. There are 11 leaves, so just need, between the 11 leaves, just need to cut out 11 pieces of 1 inch wide and 1 1/4 wide, just to sort of make it look realistic. So just need to cut out at the appropriate lengths, and then get started with the fun parts, forging. Pads, which are the base, and to cut out the tips of the leaves, just use a plasma cutter. I've created a couple of jigs, just so you get sort of similar results every time you cut. Just speeds things up. And so for this 1 inch wide material, I just have a specific template that just creates a nice shape to the tip of the leaf. This is the result after the cut. It still needs to be sanded and sort of further shaped, just to make it more appealing. And the result after refining it, just with a grinder, with a sanding disc on it, just looks a little smoother, more realistic. And remembering that I have to cut out and sand 11 leaves just for the sculpture. While I have the plasma cutter out, I also cut out the lily pads that are the base for the Bullrush Sculpture. It's also 1/8 sheet material, and you just sort of freehand draw the shape that you want, and it's a freehand cut. And after this is cut out, I just have to sand all the edges just to smooth them down and make them so they're not sharp. And the sanding takes longer than it does to cut them out. I'll show you how it's done. That's the result, a freehand cut, so a little bit of waviness, which is great, makes it more natural. So need to do 5 of these for the base, for the sculpture, all sort of unique and different. This is a propane forge that I use just to do the bulrushes. It's a nice heat source, just creates longer heats versus heating your material with coal. So now it's time to start texturing the leaves, and to do so, just need to make a few tools to help get a nice outcome, make them realistic. The first one is a die that textures and slightly shapes the material. It's just made out of a tool steel, and it might be tough to see, but there's just a slight dip or radius that is sort of carved into the die piece, and that contours the material and thins out the edges, makes it look realistic. It puts in a slight texture into the material, and that is used just underneath my power hammer. About a 1/16 of an inch thick, and there's also a slight texture to the material. For this leaf, I would need to do that 3 times to texture and change the shape of the material. Of the leaves, the next step is to cup them out, and that's just sort of a natural structural shape. Just has a contour to it that just allows them to grow long and up in the air, and to avoid getting broken typically by the wind. To do that, have to create another tool. This is the tool that goes underneath the power hammer to cup the leaves out and give them that shape. The material goes underneath this piece of round stock material and gets hit down by the power hammer, and squishes the leaves into that nice shape. It's cupped out and looks natural. For this leaf, I would have to do it 2 times. For a longer leaf, I would have to do that step 3 times. So now that I've created the cupped shape on the leaf, and it would look quite similar to the other ones that made for the sculpture at this point, I then make them unique and sort of give them a breath of life by the end being folded over, or there being a twist, just looking like it's being blowing in the wind, or it's been sort of kicked over by a storm, or just taking the shape that a bulrush leaf would you naturally find it just in a low-lying area. length of 3/8 round stock material, and this is what we use for the stock of the Bullrush. It's going to get tapered more thinly towards the end into a point, just sort of naturally like a Bullrush comes to a fine point at the end. So I'll just show how that's done underneath the power hammer. Material, and now I would have to continue texturing back to the bottom. So now that we have some leaves created and we have the stock for the Bullrush, we have to think about putting it all together. And so on the bottom side of the leaves, multiple leaves need to fit around a single Bullrush stalk and blossom. So to do that, this is a 3/8 round bar material. We need to custom fit the first leaf that's going to wrap around the stalk of the material. So it needs to be hammered and curled around to fit nicely around this 3/8 material. And the second leaf that will be assembled on this grouping then has to be sort of measured or custom fit to wrap over top of that first layer of leaf. So this one is not wrapped as tightly. And so then it fits over top of that first leaf well. And in a succeeding sizing, which this one has not been adjusted yet, but it will be adjusted to be the third leaf that will fit over top of the second layer.